What's going on YouTube? Yamaha, welcome to the channel. And in today's episode, guys, we're going to be installing a part on my 2021 Yamaha MT09 that I have been dying to get my hands on. And as fate would have it, I met a gentleman by the name of Fabio. He had this part, he wasn't going to use it, so I asked him to please hook me up with it, and he was gracious enough to bless me with this part. And guys, here it is, the HyperPro RSC Steering Damper for the 2021 and up MT09. I cannot tell you how excited I am to get this part. I have seen no videos on YouTube with this installation on the MT09, so we're gonna do it together. I'm gonna share the links on where you can get yours, so if you want, stick around, stay tuned, and enjoy. If any of this content interests you, do me a huge favor. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you want, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to be notified of all new uploads. Alright guys, so in a nutshell, what the steering dampener does is that it keeps the steering wheel from wobbling so easily. Basically, the steering dampener is going to add a little more pressure, so the bars as you're turning and going at high speeds does not wiggle so much. I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but it's called the wobble of death or speed wobble. Sometimes when you hit high speeds and you hit a bump or something weird, this handlebar will start shaking like crazy, and when that happens, guys, I'm telling you right now, you are set up for a really messed up day if you do not know how to get out of it. And there is no real trick other than to put your legs on the tank, squeeze as hard as you can, and just relax off the throttle. Keep your hands on the bike, but just kind of like release pressure off your arms, and the speed wobble should come to an end. But that doesn't always happen all the time, guys. So what the steering dampener does is that it dampens, obviously, the steering wheel at high speeds or when you're just in really rough conditions like rough roads, and it keeps it a lot more stable, and it just makes a smoother ride, especially at high speeds. Now, the location of the steering dampener is just like the 2022 Yamaha MT10. It's basically going to sit in the front here. It's got a clamp that hooks up here. It's got a little tiny brace that hooks up from this location here to this little screw here, and then basically you can just adjust the steering dampener to your likings. If you want it more firm, you dial it in harder. If you want it lighter, you release some of the pressure, and you can kind of adjust it as you go. But guys, I have yet to see a video on YouTube with an installation on the 2021 MT09, so we're doing that today. And as you can see, here is the part that I picked up from Fabio, and it is in really good shape. It's basically brand new. I mean, it's got a couple of dead love bugs here, no big deal, but there is the clamp, there is the steering dampener, there is the adjustment knob of it. And as you can see there, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's like a little plus sign and a little negative sign, and that's how you adjust the tension. So as you saw, the steering wheel wiggle pretty easily there. Once I put this on, I'm assuming that that's gonna not wiggle as easy. And we also have the rest of the clamp, the bolts for the clamp, and here is the little brace that you have to install as well. And guys, I've never installed this. I did download the instructions briefly, or a picture of the instructions on how to do it, kind of like IKEA style, and we're gonna do this side by side, step by step together, Yamaha style. All right guys, we are in daylight saving time, so it is getting darker, so I'm gonna have to use this light here to just show you guys the under portion of this bike. But as you see here, there's a little rubber grommet. I don't know if you see it here. First thing you have to do is remove this. You just pull it down and it just comes out. And basically this just keeps water and stuff from getting in here, but the dampener actually inserts right into this, right into the bottom of this triple tree in this little hole that's here, and you have to remove this to start the process. So go ahead and remove this. Don't throw this away, but just remove it so you can gain access to the bottom of the triple tree. All right guys, next thing we're gonna do is grab a 5mm Allen key and remove this screw. Do not lose this screw. All right guys, go ahead and get this bracket that's provided with the kit and go ahead and put this in place right here against this bracket and in between the rubber grommet that's right there, and put that screw back in, but don't tighten it down, just leave it kind of loose so we can have some wiggle room to move it around. Again guys, don't tighten this down, leave it loose so we can kind of move this around until we get it installed. All right guys, go ahead and get your 8mm socket and remove this screw. All right guys, I'm gonna show you what I did here. Basically, these wires are attached to that clamp that we just removed, which is right here. So this gives it a little wiggle room on these cables. As you can see, it kind of wiggles around. And I put this male adapter, I don't know what this is called, but it's basically like a tightening mechanism. You have to put it in from the bottom and push it up. And as you tighten this, it'll expand inside and actually tighten inside of the triple tree. So basically you pull down these wires you slide this up into here, leave it loose, and now we can continue with the install, because basically it has to go under these cables for it to work. I tried going on top of the cables and they would get pinched here on the triple tree. So once you pull these cables down far enough, you go ahead and go from the bottom, slide this up, make sure this portion is facing out and that the back is like this, because that's what we're gonna connect it to right here, and then the brace should attach to this. All right guys, I got it mocked up for you. Basically, you gotta make sure that on the back side of that flange, that bracket's back in place. It actually has a bolt that's welded on where this screw's going to attach to. Make sure that it lines up. If you can see the hole there, make sure it's all lined up. Make sure this is loose, and go ahead and just hand tighten it for now to make sure it has a proper fit and it's seated correctly. Once you get it hand tightened, go ahead and tighten it up completely, but don't go too snug right away. Just get it in place and we'll tighten it all down at the end. I did put some Loctite at the end of this screw because I don't want it to vibrate out, and the original, which you see here, did have some Loctite. So I went ahead and put some Loctite, put that in place, and that's how this should look so far mocked up. Again, this is not completely tightened down, and neither is this. I just left it a little loose until we finish the install. All right guys, now we're gonna attach this back on. It's just a 5mm Allen key, and we'll go ahead and put that. Make sure you leave this loose and do not attach this clamp yet until we get to that part of the install. All right guys, I'm gonna tighten up that bottom screw that's inside of the triple tree to make it super tight in order to finish the installation. I'm just gonna hold it to the top as I tighten it down to make sure that it's flat and flush and nice and secure. It is a 6mm. I think it's going to be easier to go ahead and use a socket with a 6mm head, and we're going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm also going to go ahead and tighten up this screw that's here, and also the one that's on the radiator. All right guys, now that we have the bottom tightened up, we have the two bolts that are on the side, which I've already shown you, this one that's here and this one that's in here. Once we have those three tightened up, I went ahead and put this dampener back in its place, have that tightened up. I went ahead and put the bike on a stand and put the steering wheel as straight as possible. Now that we see that the bars and the tire are super straight, now I'm going to proceed to install these two screws here and tighten them up. All right guys, I went ahead and put a little Loctite on the very tip of this just so that way it doesn't vibrate out. And I'm going to go ahead and install it super even. And obviously guys, I'm just going to hand tighten it at first to be sure that I don't cross thread it. All right guys, really quick, what I want to do is make sure that the gap is even on both sides before I tighten it down. So there I have that much of a gap, and on the other side I have basically, I don't know if you guys can see it, sorry for the camera angle, basically the same amount of gap on this side. And I'm doing that so that way when I tighten it up guys, it tightens up evenly. And what I'll do is I'll just do like a half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn to make sure that that clamp is even as it pinches the fork and stays really centered with the line that's there. I don't want it to like turn, and I also don't want one side to be super pinched and the other side super open. So I want to make sure that the gap is even on both sides, so as I tighten it down, it closes and clamps evenly. All right guys, I was able to find some of the torques for these, and it says that this is 8 Newton meters. So I have a Newton meter torque wrench. It says it's supposed to be 8 Newton meters. So we will try that here. Again, I'm gonna go side to side just to make sure that they're even. All right guys, the spacing looks pretty identical on both sides. And again, these are 8 Newton meters each. And I'm gonna go ahead and check the other ones because on the instructions, it does show me the inch pounds for all of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and double check those and we'll continue from there. All right guys, once you go ahead and check all your inch pounds, this is the final look so far. And guys, I really don't mind the gold. I probably would have picked black or silver, but guys, Fabio hooked me up. I am not gonna complain. And the gold actually kind of stands out a little bit, almost like the SP has some gold forks. Now I have a little gold too for the YP, which stands for Yamaha Productions. And so far it looks really, really nice. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try to turn the steering wheel. Ooh guys, you can see that even though I can move it, but it is a lot stiffer than before I installed this part. But I'm gonna go ahead and drop the back of the bike, and I'm gonna really mess with it to make sure that it's nice and secure. All right, guys, there is the final install. It would probably have taken me maybe a half hour by myself if I wasn't recording. And to make it super nice and easy for you guys, I try to take as much time as possible. But guys, there it is. And I'll try to get under here so you can see what it looks like from the bottom. And guys, I will be doing a review on how this actually works on the road. Again, I probably have it a little too tight, so I'm gonna just loosen it up a little bit. And there you see, it has the positive and negative. I'm gonna start kind of comfortable right there. And as time goes on, I'll just keep playing with it until I find a sweet spot, but I'll do a little bit more of research. Again, guys, this is HyperPro Steering Dampener, the RSC. Super nice, super easy to install. And guys, it should add a lot of performance and stabilization to the front of this bike as you're doing higher speeds or just having some fun on some more spirited rides. But guys, I will be doing a full review once I get this out on the road, testing it to share my thoughts on how the HyperPro actually performs. With that being said, guys, be blessed, ride safe, take it easy on them filthy streets. And remember, you got to work on Monday. Peace.